Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Vintage Club Conversations. We are thrilled to have Germain Brion joining us for today's episode. Germain has worked in organizations worldwide and identifies as a scale up operator. At ChargeBee, he spearheaded the initiative to transition the business from transactional to value based consultative sales. He also scaled a sales team from a three-member team to 150 plus member team across three continents, delivering 100x growth over 5 years. Today, Germain is the founder of Veritai, an AI native startup that helps ensure content authenticity, which is very much required in this era. It's great to have you with us, Germain.
Yeah, great to be here, Manisha. Thank you.
To kick things off, could you share with us the top three lessons you have learned about building and managing really high performing sales teams in the tech industry?
Yeah, super interesting question. And like the general view is that you know, it one of the things is adaptability, right? And so the way that you build and manage that team at let's say a couple million of ARR versus 10 million of ARR versus 20 or 30 million of ARR is going to be different. So
Yeah.
I think the first lesson would be adaptability and to get ready to just adapt. And in that spirit, a reasonably well-designed policy implemented quickly is better than a perfect policy implemented slowly just because of the pace. The second learning that I think I took for granted at first and suffered from it is the importance of a good ops team. Right? Like you think about it and you're managing high performance athletes, you're a coach to athletes on their field. The better data and performance metrics you have on your athletes, on the call it the opposing team or whatever the game is you're playing, sort of the better you can coach them. So the other thing that ops delivers other than just the metrics is obviously systems. And you need robust but flexible, as we were talking about adaptability systems to be able to manage these teams and to be able to manage growth. And finally, as you scale the team, what you need from ops is you need enablement and training, right? You need process, policies, practices need to evolve, playbooks need to change, and then you need to distribute those changes to the team. So those are kind of all the things you get within ops. The final thing, I don't believe that you can get a high performance team without culture. And there's different angles to culture. We were fortunate at ChargeBee to build a sales culture where it wasn't salesperson against salesperson, though they were competing to be at the top, to be the top salesperson. They realized, and we drove this culture where it's not because one salesperson wins a deal that the other person loses a deal. It's not a zero-sum game between the sales team. And therefore, if we share our knowledge, if we have a good feedback loop, then and we have that culture of shared learning, at that point we can help everybody be better and grow the performance of the team overall. So I think those would be the three things.
Wow. I think I'm definitely going to adapt all three of them. And a lot of things we are doing already, but specifically on, you're not competing with your team member, you are actually competing with the world. It is a positive sum game. This is something which is going to stay definitely. So transitioning ChargeBee to a value-based consultative sales model, right, which is very difficult because it is a significant shift. Could you share your strategy for implementing this change? And specifically, how did you ensure the teams buy an understanding of this new approach? Because that would again need adaptability. How did you go about it?
Right. So when I joined ChargeBee, the average deal size was about $800 per year. And when I left the global sales leadership role, we were winning 6 and sometimes 7-figure deals. The only way to make that move kind of up market is really through value-based sales, consultative sales, and not transactional. So at first we were competing on price when I joined, and really what we wanted to do was to compete on value. And in
Yeah.
order to deliver value, you need to two things. You need to understand your customers' needs very well. So there's like a product and sales alignment that's very important in this transition. Is the product team building what people need for
Right.
the ICP that is being targeted by marketing and sales? So you need that alignment of product, marketing, and sales targeting the same ICP. So we focused on B2B SaaS. That was it. Product was building for B2B SaaS. Then we had a very strict discounting policy so that kind of helps. AEs, if they cannot resort to pricing, must resort to other things in order to sell. And so removing easy discounting made it harder for them to sell on price. Finally, what we did is we helped them with discovery, because consultative sales really involves understanding not just your ICP's need, but that particular customer's needs, and then training AEs on how you present features as value in the face of need, right? So you listen to your prospect. What do you need? I need to solve this and this problem. Okay, well, rather than telling you the list of features, I can tell you the end value that we deliver with features. And all of a sudden, then you're adding value to a customer's business or a prospect's business. And therefore, it is less, you can do an ROI comparison over what is the price of our software versus how much you gain in time and efficiency and productivity, whatever your metric is or metrics are for value-based selling. So your second point on how you get the team to adapt, that was a harder point, because when you make this transition, there's going to be a period where everybody's trying to figure out their footing. And so your sales actually drop. So in my first year, sales decreased and there were a lot of questions from the team. And then finally, at the end of the year, we found our rhythm, and everything kind of went up and to the right, and then it continued. And so then you've got the trust, right? Like salespeople ultimately just need to trust that you're enabling them to be successful.
Right. I think it would have been really difficult to get through those few, 3, 4 tough quarters, because you would definitely not want to lose your best salespeople in that transition.
Yeah, that's right. But at the same time, to be honest, 12 months after I joined, none of the original salespeople when I joined, there were 3 when I joined, none of those 3 were still with the company. And so sometimes that happens, right? There's a big culture shift in the business. They had been getting paid out almost 100% commission, regardless of how they performed. I indexed commission to performance. And so, like sometimes it's hard to bring everybody along with that. And it's not that I let them go, it's that they didn't want to come along. And, that's fine. You just have to accept that when you make this transition, some people will evolve and some people will prefer the old way.
Yeah, you have to be bold to take some of these decisions.
That's right.
So 2 topics which you touched upon, and I would like to deep dive into those. One is customer value, and the second is discovery, right? Like all of us know that currently discovery has become much more faster because of availability of Gen AI tools. So we'll talk about it, but starting with customer value, right? So in your experience, how do you balance the need to optimize pricing, especially when you're starting, with the importance of maintaining a focus on value sharing with your customers? Are there any specific strategies or frameworks you have found effective in this regard?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Manisha. And first of all, we often talk about pricing as though it is something static, and pricing is something that is dynamic. So in the story of growth of a business, pricing will evolve. And if you're not testing and iterating on pricing, then you're doing a disservice to your business. And we talked about this a little bit when we first connected, about how sometimes early stage founders want to optimize pricing before they've really got product market fit. And my view is like, yes, you need some pricing to make sure people will pay some money for your product when you're looking for product market fit. But don't let pricing get in the way of finding product market fit. And often it does if it's too complicated. Now, to your question a little bit later, once you have product market fit, you're going into value-based selling. how do you make sure that the customer's value is aligned with your need for pricing? And that's a tough one, because as your product evolves, the value you deliver evolves. That's an expectation in SaaS, right? We're like, it's a perpetual, it's not a sort of, there's a recurring subscription because the product is meant to evolve. But at some point, when I look at ChargeBee's value in 2016 when I joined, and ChargeBee's value today as a like revenue operations management platform, the value is so much higher and greater today than it was then. And we can point to that to customers to defend pricing. Ultimately, one of the things we have to realize is customers are different, and you have to segment your customers, and the value that they're going to get from your product is different based, in ChargeBee's case, on their stage of growth. So an early stage business needs a different set of value propositions from ChargeBee than an enterprise customer, right? And so your pricing has to reflect that, because I can't charge a business doing $1 million in AR, $1 million of ARR, the same dollar amount as a company doing 100 million, because the value they're getting out of the product isn't the same. Not just their ability to pay. So I think it naturally, if you think about your customer and where they are in the journey and the value that they get in your product, you naturally come to segmented pricing based on your ideal customer segments. And then it's much easier to defend with them that, look, in the future state that we're going to give you with our product, we're going to save you this many hours or this much money, or, sometimes it's not about replacing people's roles, but it's changing their job functions where they move up to higher value functions. And I think AI is going to be a huge, I don't think we've seen productivity gains from SaaS the way that we can hope to see them from AI. I don't think the promise has been delivered yet in AI, but if it delivers even partially on the promise, the ROI argument or discussion with a customer is going to be, how do I move your employees up the value chain using my AI product, right? Not how do I displace them.
Yeah. Like, for example, how can a pre-sales person or a solutions engineer do more, maybe, move up the value chain towards sales side, because that is what they see as forward growth, instead of trying to, replace them with AI, because there'll always be some human touch which will be required, at least at least from the current AI tools which we are seeing, unless it gets completely automated and we see the invention of AGI.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And I think that as long as we're selling to humans, like our buyers are still humans today, right? Maybe there's some future in which AI agents are buying the SaaS tools that businesses need. I don't know. But today, our buyers are still human. And so there are still limits to how much AI can do. And I think what's interesting with the state of enterprise AI today is we see that it works well for internal purposes, sort of getting you from a blank page to a draft. But I don't think I've seen many compelling enterprise AI solutions for customer facing yet, because there's still some hallucination issues. There's still, we're still in the early days of this. So we definitely need the humans. But now humans are editors of AI content, rather than having humans generating kind of this repeatable content. So I think there is a really strong case. It is not that, like, customer service is the easiest one to think about. Like, the L1 agents will all move into L2 and you deliver better customer service for it, right?
And that's why now you need to know more technical stuff than just knowing high level stuff which you were earlier okay with. So now you're building an AI native org, right? So when it comes to customer value or pricing, what are some of the differences you have seen in how you need to approach selling an AI product or service versus any other SaaS product?
So first of all, I'll say, Manisha, I appreciate it. Like, we're at the very early stages of Veritai. So we are pre-product market fit. We are content authentication. So we're trying to mitigate the impact of fakes on digital content, so that we can have a shared agreement as a society over what's real. But and AI is definitely part of our platform. We are approaching it such that, like, I don't tell customers when I would sell ChargeBee, we're a cloud-based system, right? It's just like taken for granted that we're in the cloud. And I don't actually use AI in our solution as as the selling point. Like, the selling point is the value we deliver. The way that we deliver that value is through a bunch of things, which also includes AI. And I think that when we lead with AI, the challenge is that it kind of replaces the hard work of figuring out what the value you're delivering. We just, like, it's kind of this magical box that is like, oh, AI, and we just say AI, and everybody is supposed to say, oh, this thing is great. And what we see, in fact, today, and we're very early in the stage of AI, but is that, like, people are generally underwhelmed by, like, the promise to reality gap is actually, quite high, and that's normal, because in a certain sense this stuff is still research stage. It's not like, and so so I think we need to be careful about throwing up the AI buzzword when we're talking to customers, because we always try to manage customer expectations. And if the expectation is that because it's AI, it will do all this magical stuff, and then the magic doesn't happen, we're going to, generate a bit of frustration on the customer side, which is never good for an ongoing relationship. So I'm trying to be careful about how we position it there.
I can't agree more with you on this. I mean, especially with the expectations, I think the kind of expectations with which people have with AI, just because of ChatGPT, because it has truly been a transformational technology for even a common user, right? I think the expectations management really need to happen, and customer doesn't really need to know that there is AI in the background or there are workflows in the background. It is more about generating value. And that's why, even when we are building our solution, we are like, it's okay if if you're not able to answer 20 out of 1,000 questions, but whatever we are answering, the answers have to be accurate, because that is the only way customers will be able to trust your platform. No hallucinations is definitely a good thing to say, but you can achieve no hallucinations only if you're okay to, not try to take the productivity to 100% and be okay with 80-90% improvement in productivity. Because that also is a huge shift.
Yeah. I mean, I think of Gen AI today like a high school debate student, where they feel that they seem like they speak confidently on every topic, but their actual degree of mastery and understanding of all the topics is not always as deep as their confidence kind of portrays. And so I think that's why we need to be careful and let it mature a little bit.
So last but not the least, I think anyone working within the AI space has seen how drastically the market has changed over the last 12 months, and how it is still changing. And we have just scratched the surface, as we discussed, right? It is almost in the research phase currently. How does this ever-changing environment impact your goals, and what do you want to really achieve this year, personally or professionally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that in the way that we're looking at AI, which is like generative content, and how we make sure that content is authentic, I try to look at a medium to long-term horizon of how things are going to evolve, and it's very hard, because 18 months ago nobody would have said we would be where we are today. But my guess is that there's a lot of, like, I remember in 2016 everybody was crazy about bots, and like, oh, the chat bot is the future, and then like we get like crazy about something else, and then it was something else, and like AI seems more substantive than those things, but I think there's a lot of noise right now. So I try to come back to first principles about like what we know, and in terms of what we're doing as a business, it's not incredibly important how AI generates what it does. What is important to us is, can we assume that there will be more content generated by AI tomorrow than there is today? And I think that's a safe assumption. And therefore, we build towards that. The other thing is obviously like not trying, especially at the early stage, not trying to over-engineer with current AI solutions because the landscape changes so quickly, right? How can we come out with a proof of concept? And that's our goal. This ties into the goal for this year, is to come out with a proof of concept, hopefully by this summer, that we can test with political campaigns in the US cycle before November. So our timeline is very short. But we would build that in a way that is robust for the need, but is not putting us on a path of technical dependency in the future. Because my guess is that the tools available to us in 12 months will be far more compelling than what we have today. And therefore, like, not too much, I guess, call it all light integrations to tools, so that we can kind of bounce around with different tools and be opportunistic there. So those are my goals, and my personal goal is I have an 18-month-old son and a wife, and it is how to balance being a husband, father, and a sort of a founder of an early stage business at the same time. So
good luck with that. One thing
that's what everybody tells.
Yeah, I think you already know this. It's obviously super fun roller coaster ride, but it never gets easy. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of our series. I think there are a lot of takeaways for anyone in tech sales, especially, when we talk about customer value. A lot of lessons from this conversation.
Thank you, Manisha. Really appreciated it. Thank you for having me.